Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you 10 books that I really want to read in 2025. Now, I haven't chosen 25 books just because it's never gonna end. It's gonna get too out of hand. I know I will read more than 25 books in the year, so that's not the problem. It's just, I think that 10 is a more reasonable number to aim for and more realistic. So I've chosen these books based on sort of how long they've been on my shelves, how long they've been on my radar for as well, because a lot of these ones aren't necessarily books that have been on my TBR, like my physical TBR, for years and years, but they have been on my radar for a long time. So first up, I have The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon, and this one I was so excited about, and I even got like the special Waterstones edition and everything, and I just like never ended up reading it, and it's been on my shelf for so long now, but I'm still really excited about it. It is a Reylo fanfic. Now, I'm not a Star Wars girly. I've seen like 2.5 movies maybe tops, but I do know that Reylo fanfic in general was taking the book world at least by storm in a lot of different ways, and this is the result of one of them. And so I know this is like more sci-fi-y, so it's not necessarily like a fanfic romance like Ali Hazelwood did. I have heard mixed things about this one. However, I do kind of want to see where I stand, because some people absolutely love this and some people really were disappointed. So I'm trying not to have like my expectations like up here, and I think maybe that's why I've waited so long to actually read this, because now that it's been a little while, I'm not seeing all the hype as much as I used to. But I am very excited to read that one, and I think there might be a second book coming out, or maybe it's just another book by the same author, but I do really want to get to that one soon. And next up is actually a relatively new purchase for me, but this one has been on my like wish list TBR for, I want to say, like a year and a half. That book is Ring Shout by P. Jelly Clark, and this one is a really short horror novella, and this one is set in 1915 and is a horror book about the Klan. So it says, in 1915, the birth of a nation cast a spell across America, swelling the Klan's ranks and drinking deep from the darkest thoughts of white folk. All across the nation they ride, spreading fear and violence among the vulnerable. They plan to bring hell to earth, but even Ku Kluxers can die. Standing in their way are Maurice Boudreaux and her fellow resistance fighters, a foul-mouthed sharpshooter and a Harlem hellfighter. Armed with blade, bullet and bomb, they hunt their hunters and send the Klan's demons straight to hell. But something awful is brewing in Macron, and the war on hell is about to heat up. I've just heard it's really good. It is speculative fiction. Apparently it's kind of fun, as well as obviously, you know, this serious take on the Klan and them being demons and everything as well. But yeah, I've heard so many good things about this one, and I finally have it in my hands, and so I'm going to be reading this one like pretty shortly. I think this is very high up on my radar. I've heard so many good things about it. The next book that I have that I really want to read is Spark of the Everflame by Peng Cole. This one is the first book in a new like fantasy romance series, and I have heard so many good things about it. It's also like pretty short as well, and I think the second book has just come out physically, at least. I think these have been on KU for a while, but it is set in a mortal world colonized by the gods and ruled over by the Descended, who are their cruel offspring. And the main character, DM, yearns to escape the life of her poor village. Her mother suddenly disappears, and DM discovers a dangerous secret about her past, and she has an unexpected opportunity to descend into the dark world of the Descended royalty and unlock the web of mysteries her mother left behind. And then there is also the king's really handsome heir, and assuming that this is enemies to lovers, and then they end up falling in love at some point. I don't know if that happens in this book or later on, because like I said, this book is quite short, but I've just heard so many good things about this author's writing, and it just It sounds really, really fun, and I am keen for a new, really addictive fantasy romance series. Speaking of another fantasy romance series, I also have The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen, and this one is the first book in a series of like 4 or 5 books I think now, but I still haven't read this one. And I remember I accidentally picked up the 4th book in the series, and then I had to like go out of my way to get this one specifically, and then by the time I actually managed to get a hold of this, I had gotten more interested in other books again. So this one is still very much high up on my radar because, like I said with the previous book as well, like I've heard really good things about the author's writing. I've just heard so many good things about this book and about this series as a whole as well, and I think it's gonna be a really fun, addictive series for me to get into in the new year. So I don't know if I'll read the whole series, maybe I will binge it, but we'll have to see. But I'm gonna read the first one at the very least and see how I go. And then I was stoked about this one. I need to actually haul this one in my next book haul, but I'm going to talk about it here anyway. But I ended up getting Una Out of Order by Margarita Montemor, and this one, oh my god, this one has been on my radar for so long, and I was going to buy it from Booktopia, and then all the stuff happened with the shutting down of Booktopia, and then it came back. But then this was the last item in my cart, and then all the stuff happened with Booktopia, and then it wasn't available anymore, like by the distributors, and I'm like, oh, okay, like, and I just kept on meaning to order it since then. And then I was just like walking by a news agency one day, and I had the little, you know, the rotation shelf of books, and this was right at the front for like $6, and I was like, I need to get this because I've wanted to read this for so long. So I will be reading this one at some point. So it's set on New Year's Eve 1982. This one follows Una, who each year on her birthday wakes up in a different age. So not a different body, it's still her body and still her as a person, but one year she'll be 32 years old, and then the next year on her birthday she'll wake up and she'll be 52, and she just kind of has to figure out what's going on, like who's in her life, and readjust every time. And I just think it sounds really interesting, and I don't know, like it sounds a little bit weird, but it also sounds like it could be really fun and also probably kind of heart-wrenching at the same time, judging by like the subject matter. But I'm really, really excited for this one because it has been on my radar for so long, and now I finally have it. So I definitely want to get to this one really soon. Oh, this one I really do need to get to. And I don't know why I haven't yet, because I did enjoy the first book a lot. And that one is Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings, and I read Magnolia Parks. I actually really enjoyed Magnolia Parks, not as much as I was hoping to. Like, it wasn't a 5-star read, but it was still a solid 4-star read for me. And I'm so curious about meeting Daisy and her character and seeing what her story is like, because she was mentioned in the first book, but she is a part of at least initially, a different group of kind of friends, but they're all sort of following a bunch of really, really rich kids in London. And it is basically Gossip Girl. Like, it's very toxic. It is not following healthy relationships in the slightest, but it was still really enjoyable, and the characters feel really real despite being about super rich kids, or like super rich teenagers. So I'm very, very curious to see whether I like Daisy as a character more than I like Magnolia, because not even in the way that they're like likable or not, but just whether I'm more, you know, attached to her as a character or her story more so than Magnolia Parks and BJ. Next, I didn't think that a book like this would be in my top 10 books to read of 2025 at like this point in my life, because this is like a really old YA book, but hear me out, It is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. This is like a really old YA sci-fi book, and it is a Cinderella retelling as well. And I'm just so excited to read this one. Like, I've been rejuvenated to read it because I finally finished reading the Renegade series, and I just finished reading the 3rd book in the series. That is like a completely different series to this one, but I really want to get back into her writing, and it's just so fun and easy to read. And I've heard really good things about this as well, and I want to read all of like the spin-off books and everything as well. I don't know, like after finishing Supernova, finally after all of these years, I'm just like, I think I might have rediscovered a little bit of a love for YA again. Like, for a while there I was like, don't care, and I'm still very much, you know, into adult books, but there's just something about rereading the Renegade series this year that just, I don't know, it sparked something in me, and so I do really want to get to this one as well. This one has been on my radar not as long as like the others have been, but the anticipation level I feel for reading this, because I've only just gotten it recently as well, is pretty high, and that is Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang. And this one is a horror sort of book, and I believe it has body horror as well, so if that's not your thing, this probably won't be for you. This is a horror book that explores the beauty industry as a whole and how toxic and horrible it can be, and the horrors of like plastic surgery and altering your body, and it's set in like a really beauty obsessed world. Oh, it follows a young musician as well, so I guess she's in the limelight as well, so we kind of see how that impacts her. I'm so excited about this, and just to see how it explores things like consumerism and the beauty industry and everything, and the fact that it's sort of like a horror book as well from what I've heard. What is happening with that ad in the background? Oh my god, I'm so sorry. There we go. I just noticed that. Wow, okay. Anyway, I'm really excited for this book. It's been on my radar for ages. It is like a newer release. It only came out earlier this year. The anticipation that I feel to read this, like, I think this is, if I had to predict anything is going to be a 5-star read for me out of all of these books, it would be this one. And I have a really good feeling about this one. I have really high expectations. Maybe I shouldn't have such high expectations, but I can't wait. Then I have The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. This one I was, again, really excited for. I pre-ordered 2 copies of this and I still have not read it. And I just really like Leigh Bardugo's writing. It is set in Madrid and follows a maid who is using little scraps of magic throughout the day just to get by, and then her boss lady ends up discovering that she is using magic, and she demands Lucia uses those gifts to win over the royal court. And so she is determined to seize this chance to better her own fortunes and kind of take advantage. And she ends up plunging into a world of power-hungry nobility, desperate kings, holy men, and seers, and the lines between magic, science, and fraud all blur together. And I believe there might be something similar to the witch burnings taking place in here as well. So I'm really curious to see about this one. I haven't heard, honestly, I feel like for how much hype this got, I didn't see that many people talking about it. I think a lot of people were. I think it was just the people I was watching I didn't really see talking about it. But I'm still very excited for it and intrigued to see what I think as well. I think it'll be an interesting one. And I believe it's a standalone as well, which is cool. Finally, oh my god, this is another one that this one took me a while to actually physically find because I wanted the specific US cover and it was just a bit more hard. But the final book that I really want to read in 2025 is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This one apparently is very cozy feeling. It's like a cozy fantasy, and it very much is it's just about a professor, Emily Wilde, who is writing this book, and she's a scholar and she's writing the first encyclopedia on fairy lore. And I don't actually know too much else apart from that, but I've heard it's really, really good. The writing is supposed to be gorgeous. I really like the layout of it as well, because like not only is it just a generally really pretty book, but like they seem to be like date entries, like journal entries, and so I'm curious to see what I end up thinking of this happening. So I really, really love this cover specifically, like the US cover, and I really want to get the other ones out as well, but I need to try and find them first. But I want to see how I go with this one before I get the others. But I've heard really, really good things about it, and I cannot wait. I'm so excited for all of these books. So they are the top 10 books that I really want to read in 2025. Obviously these are going to be starting some more series for me, which is kind of opposite to my goals of this year of finishing more series, which I've done a little bit, but this will probably ruin those plans. I'm going to leave it there. Let me know down in the comments below what you're really hoping to get knocked off your TBR this year. Obviously this doesn't include upcoming releases for 2025 as well. That will be a separate video. But these are the books that I already own that I really, really want to prioritize next year. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below as well. It would really help me out. But I hope you have a fantastic day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.